Hey, somebody's got to reinvent the wheel. You already did? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to the Professional Noticer. Here, you and I will use common sense and all the wisdom we can muster to move beyond what is true and go all the way to the truth, creating measurable results for people like you and families like yours. No longer a member of the amateur ranks, I am the Professional Noticer.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thanks for making me part of your week. While our topics might seem to vary wildly at times, it's because the things you care about most are often greatly affected by the things you care about least. Therefore, we will field questions about business. We'll talk about spiritual issues and popular culture. And why do you have to put your 2 cents in, but it only costs a penny for your thoughts? My purpose here today, and with every show we do, is to play the part of a best friend or coach. I want to help you live the life you would live if all your toughest questions were answered. The Professional Noticer is sponsored this week by Austin Legacy Knives. These beautiful knives are created one at a time, individually handcrafted to your specifications. Talk about your limited editions. Each Austin Legacy knife is discreetly marked 1 of 1 right on the blade next to the handle. Austin Legacy Knives will produce the most memorable gift you will give this year, whether for Christmas, graduation, birthday, or wedding. And the ordering process is simple. You just go to austinlegacyknives.com and choose a blade style. Then choose the handle material from the beautiful wood that's pictured on the site, and that's all there is to it. Also, in the category of just in case you didn't know, the Austin part of Austin Legacy Knives is not named for the city in Texas. Austin is my 19-year-old son, Austin Andrews. I watch him work sometimes, and I'm just amazed at the care and thought that goes into every piece he creates. By the way, let's say that right now you need a one-of-a-kind client gift or a Christmas gift for someone special, but you just don't feel like you have the time to make the material selections that are available on the site and wait for the knife to be made. Well, there is an option for you. In the spare time he has between commissioned pieces, and Austin's been doing this for months, he continues to create beautiful one-of-a-kind knives that are also marked 1 of 1. The only difference in these knives is that Austin is the one who has personally chosen which handle material and how it goes with what style and how that combination flows. These knives have already been made. They're on display and ready to ship to you. Just go to austinlegacyknives.com and click on Available Now. These knives are one of a kind and will be displayed in Available Now as long as they are available. And they are. Now. Be sure to check out Mama's Secret Weapon as well. This is a very interesting piece. I don't want to call it a spoon, but they are beautiful to display in anyone's kitchen. They're awesome to use, and they're also marked 1 of 1 and will make a beautiful and fairly inexpensive gift. So that's a Merry Christmas to you from austinlegacyknives.com. Okay, observations and answers is what we do here. I deliver the observations, and you provide the questions for these. We're going to get to the questions in just a minute, but did you eat too much turkey on Thanksgiving? Do you do turkey on Thanksgiving? I'm always curious about people's traditions. I talked to somebody the other day. They said, well, our family has a tradition for the past number of years of a vegetarian Thanksgiving dinner. And several vegetarians join us, and we also have some vegans there. And that's fine, but I didn't really know what to say. Because I'm trying to imagine what does that look like? What do you do? I've told people before. I'm curious about that because I have friends who are vegetarians. I have a relative who is a vegan, and he's very cool about it. But you know how some people kind of push stuff on people, and I'm not just talking about this. People push everything on people. I suppose people get really, really excited, really fired up about something, and they become overwrought and and begin to push. It's like they push food or push an activity as if it's like become their religion or something. But I am curious about what a vegetarian Thanksgiving would look like. Do they do something to make something look like a turkey or I don't know. I don't know. One of my friends was going through a drive-through the other day with Adele, his daughter. I guess Adele's going to know now that I know about this and I talked about it, but I just laughed because she had asked her dad, what a vegan was, and he said it's pronounced vegan, and it's when people don't eat animals or anything created by animals. And she said, "Well, Dad, I love all animals, but some of them are delicious." and it's true. It's true. Some of them are delicious. I wonder, though, I still wonder about this Thanksgiving thing. And it's hilarious to me that people brag about some of that. You don't hear people bragging about being a meatitarian or whatever it is other people are. I mean, people who eat what I suppose is called kind of have more balanced choices, or I guess a broader range of you just don't hear people bragging about that like you do hear people sometimes, bragging about their what would you call it? Like a plant tendency or something. But you do hear, I mean, you'll hear people say, I haven't eaten a steak in 7 years. I'm like, all right, I haven't eaten asparagus in 59 years, but I'm not bragging about it. It's just very curious to me, just very curious. We're going to go to some questions as you determine whether you're going to go vegan for Christmas. Questions are just such a critical component to our lives and to the people that you and I aspire to become. And I run into people all the time saying, well, kind of embarrassed to call. I listen to the podcast, but I'm kind of embarrassed to call. Look, please call. Please call 1-800-726-ANDY. And extension 1 is the professional noticer. And so you can call and just leave your message there. And if you'd rather your name not be used, use a different name. Use a what they call a pen name. Or just say, I'd rather not my name not be used. And we'll just say it's from anonymous or something. But questions are such a huge part of not only the show, but of our lives, because it's sometimes only when you hear a question that we begin to dive into it and start to peel back the layers to find the answer. And, to find the answer of not only what is true, but to go below that, to go what everybody else sees and go to the bottom of the pool and find the truth. And so the quality of your answers can only be determined by the quality of your questions. And knowing that, we deal with questions here and try to make observations and turn them into answers. Our first question this week is from Joe. Let's listen.
Hey, Andy. This is Joe. I'm a businessman and travel quite frequently, as I know you do too. It seems there are more and more disrespectful people traveling and fewer people with etiquette and just downright common courtesy. People race to sit down and wait. I'm not understanding their rationale. Do you feel our society has created such a competitive culture that subconsciously people feel like they have to win at everything, not realizing that it's not worth the race sometimes, or there isn't one to begin with. I was wondering if you have observed any of this in your travels and what your thought process has been on this. Thanks.
Wow, that is a killer question. I think it's very interesting because you're right. I do travel a good bit, Joe, and I have wondered about this for a long time. I think that to some degree, the regions of our country react differently. I really do. I'm sorry to say this, but I really do think people are friendlier to other people just like kind of out of the blue in Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Tennessee, Arkansas, I'll say northern Florida. Sorry about that, South Florida, but I really do see a difference. My buddy Kevin Perkins and I were in a place last year, and I won't say exactly where it was, but it was way north of where we live. And Kevin and I were in a Walmart, and we're walking around. We're doing some grocery shopping and doing some stuff, shopping in the sporting good department. And we were in there for about an hour and just pushing our basket. No time on us, and so we were just pushing our basket and talking and yakking, and we were doing, we didn't realize this until later, but we were doing what we always do, which is as we pass somebody in the Walmart or actually wherever we are here, when we pass somebody, we say, "Hey, how you doing?" Or, we see somebody in a coat and we go, "Man, we're freezing. When did it get this cold?" And if we saw some kid or something, we would say something to the kid with his parents there. We'd say something like, "Man, that's a great truck you got there. You better thank your daddy for that." And it just talking. And somewhere 45 minutes, 50 minutes in, Kevin said to me, he said, "Have you noticed that we are talking to people, but they are not talking to us?" And I thought, yeah, I guess I do notice that now that you say it. Now that you mention it, I guess I do. Because we would say, around here, if I go to the Publix in Orange Beach, I would not dare not speak to people. Hey, we'd pass people and go, "Hey, how you doing?" And they go, "Fine, how are you?" Or you say, "Hey, man, it's cold outside, isn't it? What's happening here?" And they say, "Yeah, we came down here thinking it was going to be really warm, and here it is freezing." Or you see some kid and say, "Hey, that's a great Superman outfit. Do you really have the powers?" And the parents will laugh, and the kid will look at his parents and then kind of laugh. But boy, where we were, everybody we spoke to, they wouldn't even say hi back. They just kind of look at us like we're weirdos, which we are, but they shouldn't, you wouldn't think they'd look at us that way. And, if it was a longer comment, like about the weather, where it was something, but they'd look at us like they were suspecting something. And man, you wouldn't dare. We figured out, you don't dare talk to these kids. Don't talk to their kids because they'll grab their kids and pull them away from you. So it was very odd, Joe, to see how different areas of the country, and I do notice, even here, and no matter where, I notice what you're saying about this rush for stuff, this run. I see people quite a bit that will risk killing themselves on the highway by passing somebody and it's tight, and they'll gun 90 miles an hour passing and get past them. And, from back there, couldn't they see there's a line of traffic up here? They're going to risk their life to pass somebody, and what'd you gain, 100 yards? Because now you're going just the same amount of speed everybody else is. It's very odd. I saw something that happened the other day. I've never seen happen in my life. I was I was driving up to a place just a couple hours from here, but there were several people in line driving, and frankly, all of us were going over the speed limit. I mean, the speed limit there, I think, was 55, and I think everybody was going 62, 63, something like that. But we were in line, and man, this black Chevy comes like I think a Silverado, a black truck. I mean, man, he busted past us and past all three of us, just like left. I mean, it's one of those kind of things where you think, is that guy going, is he going 100 miles an hour? I wasn't really sure, but it was close. And 5 or 6 miles up here, I go, there you go, and there's the blue lights, and the guy's pulled over, and we go by and we think, well, there you go. That's, finally somebody, there's a policeman there when somebody's doing something that stupid. And so I forgot about it. 15 minutes later, here comes this guy again, and he blows past us again. So, I didn't see another policeman around, but I wish. I said, boy, 2 times in one day, that would be great for this guy. But I was just, like, what's going on here? And I see, I said, Joe, I do. You asked for my observations. I do see, even in, I'm giving Alabama and Mississippi and Georgia a lot of credit here, but I do see, even in our own town, even in our own states, I see a slackening of civility, I guess, because it's not just kids who act this way. And I'm not talking about things that are necessarily wrong. They're just not right, okay? And I'll use, for instance, have you been standing in a grocery store and you're obviously looking at a particular group of products, and you're standing there and somebody walks right in front of you and they never say anything? Now, I'm just saying, I don't guess there's anything wrong. I don't guess anybody's broken any courtesy laws or anything. I never heard anything about that. However, I see it happen a lot when I'm traveling. You're in an airport, you're looking at a particular group of magazines in a store, and people just, one after another, they just walk right by you. Right in front of you, and it's like you didn't even exist. And so Polly and I have taught our boys, anytime you walk in front of somebody that you have to, you say, excuse me, anytime. And so anyway, I just see it. I think people used to do things like that, but I see less and less of it. And you're right. It's not worth the hassle. It's not worth the race sometimes. I do want to say this. I do want to make this one comment before we go off this question, Joe. I think this is one of those kind of places. I talk to companies and people in business for themselves a lot, as well as teams and families and communities, about competing in a way your competition doesn't know a game is going on. Okay, so this is one of those ways that you can do it. This is one of those ways you can teach your children to compete, okay? Because it's one of those kind of things that in the minds of other people, maybe somebody doesn't get minus points for walking right in front of them in a grocery store. But since it's so rare now that anybody would say, excuse me, you certainly find that person getting positive points. And so when we can be very aware of the people around us, when we can be valuable to those people by honoring them, by honoring their space, by honoring who they are, what they've become, what they do, by just honoring them with, what a lot of people consider common courtesy or manners. But as you have stated, common courtesy, not so common anymore. Manners have just kind of slipped. And so I think that when we act in a way at work, at home, just, anywhere we are, when we act in a way that is uncommon, we gain attention. We gain attention for in the right direction and for the right reasons. And so it's something we can certainly pass on to our kids to give our kids a leg up that really, really matters. Thank you. Thank you very much. That is a great question. Appreciate that line of thought there, and I hope everybody enjoyed that. I am Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom, attempting to plow through the challenges all the way to an answer for you. Our next question is from Angie. Angie is from South Carolina. It's another one of those polite states, Joe. So here's Angie, South Carolina. Let's listen.
Hi, Andy. This is Angie from South Carolina. I'm calling today because I have a high school-age child who's just not motivated to do anything. I've tried to get him to do extracurricular activities, but not just sports, but I need him to get involved in anything. I've told him if he won't be involved in school, then he needs to get a job. I can't get him to apply, and I can barely just get him to take out the trash. I look at my other friends' kids, and they're outgoing kids. They don't need a lot of discipline. They barely need a suggestion just to get out the door and into something with their school, church, organization, sports, anything. I've tried disciplining him, talking to him, even bribery. Nothing seems to work. I don't think there's bullying involved at this point at school that would shut him down, and I know the few friends he has seem to be good kids. So I'm at a loss about what to do. He needs to get into something, and something I want him to want to be involved in, other than the couch or a video game. Any advice would be appreciated. Thanks.
Angie, thank you. That is a very interesting question. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go right in on it. Okay, I noticed a couple of things here that I'm going to have to assume. Now, you may listen to my answer as everybody else listens to my answer, and you may think, oh, that's not right. Okay, but I'm going to make a couple of assumptions just based on what you said and what you didn't say. And I think I can help with this in figuring out, maybe what direction to go. All right. Here is one assumption that I'm going to make. All the way through this, now there's nothing wrong here. Okay, there's nothing wrong. And I may be incorrect in my assumption. But by the way you stated this, I am making the assumption that, your name is Angie. You're obviously female, and all the way through it, you say, I have a high school age child, and I've tried to get him to do this, and I can't get him to do this, and so I am at a loss. And it's a him. So this is your son, as a teenage young man. But all the way through the eyes, let me know that, or allow me to assume that you are a single mom, all right? That there's not a dad living there, all right? So here's one thing that I want to say, and that is that congratulations and, man, honors and kudos to you for caring so much about your son to even notice this stuff and to take the time, because I know as a single mom, you're just busier. And so there are sometimes single parents knowing they have to put food on the table and they have to do certain things just to provide for their family. Sometimes they don't notice the things that they might do they might notice if they have more time. And so I'm not putting any kind of, burden or putting any kind of bad feeling on you. I want you to know that I appreciate what you do. However, as this is just a fact, as a female, there's a lot of things that you probably don't understand about guys. And I can only assume that because I know that as a guy and having been married 30 years, there's still a lot of stuff I don't understand about females. So there are things I know with our sons that I understand and I can kind of give Polly a clue into. And then there's things with the boys, with their dating, their relationships with, girls or with teachers that Polly can give a real insight to that I have no clue. And so I want to give you a couple of insights here to your son, just with what is put in here. I know you are kind of at your wits' end because you said you've tried everything. You've disciplined him. You've talked with him. You've bribed him, which I think is funny. I think we all do that at some point. And you look at other kids. They're outgoing. They don't seem to need a suggestion. And you kind of put the mojo on your son. You tell him if you're not going to be involved in school, you need to get a job. But then you can't get him to apply for a job. And you can barely get him to take out the trash. Okay, let me tell you a couple of things. One is that you can barely get him to take out the trash. Well, he seems like a perfectly normal teenage boy to me. Now, I'm only halfway teasing there because I do mean that about the trash. But I also look at what you've written about your son, and I do feel like there's something wrong. Now, I'm not saying there's something hugely wrong or something wrong that is insurmountable or maybe even hugely challenging, but there is something wrong. And I will tell you that he's not likely to have it disciplined out of him, whatever it is. And I can promise you it's nothing physical unless it involves another person. But I'm just saying there's nothing really wrong with him, like he hadn't got a disease or something like that. I'm just saying that mentally, his thought process, there is something really bothering him. So whatever it is not likely to be disciplined out, bribed out, forced out, given some kind of declaration and have that come out. And a large part of the reason of that is he's a guy. Teenage guys especially, tend not to talk. They just don't talk a lot. And mothers sometimes don't understand that because mothers grew up as little girls. And little girls, just like they generally talk. They talk a lot. And teenage girls especially seem to talk a lot. And when a guy gets into his teen years, he just doesn't. Guys can, it's still in my life, I can be with Kevin Perkins or Jimmy Urey or George Gosser. We can hang together and literally do something and not really say more than 20 or 30 words during an hour. And we don't think anything's wrong. Or I'll get back in from some spending time with Dan Stone, and Polly will say, "Well, what's going on with Dan? How's his family?" And fine. Well, what's going on with their kids? I don't know. Well, how's Lindsay? Well, she's fine, I guess. He didn't say anything was wrong. And that really frustrates Polly because guys just don't talk. All right, so here's one thing that, knowing that, here's one thing, kind of a trick in a way, that I want you to understand. When guys do talk, they're generally doing something. You can sit down with a girl and say, okay, let's have a conversation about, and you don't need anything more than coffee or tea or a Kleenex to dry your eyes. But guys, don't do that well. Anytime somebody tries to, I've seen even I've tried to do it with my boys, and, they want to grab a paper clip and bend it in half, or they want to, draw something, or they want to pick up a piece of rope and like tear it apart. And sometimes you want to say, hey, put that down. I'm trying to talk to you, but they just don't work that way. And so I know my boys, I've had some really significant conversations with Austin playing ping pong. I've had some really, really deep conversations with Adam throwing a cast net. But at the very least, one thing you can do is get him to walk. Just walk. Because I've found, with male adults, employees, that one of the greatest ways that people, that a CEO can really deal with people, especially if they're guys, is to say, all right, let's go for a walk. And here's an odd observation, but girls, ladies, seem to communicate well looking at each other. Guys communicate well doing something and not looking at each other. They're doing something and they're walking. They're side by side. They're looking around, but they're talking to each other. And so to take your son for a walk is going to be a real beginning there. All right. Now, I agree with you. He needs to be involved with something other than the couch or a video game. But at some point, there's going to have to be, for him, some kind of breakthrough and some kind of understanding from your angle about what it is that, is going on that needs to be broken through. And maybe, perhaps there's somebody else that can help with this, somebody who can, or who already is a buddy with your son. And you might see your son like out among people and you're just kind of amazed that, gosh, he does so well. He has friends. He's seems so happy and seems so polite around adults. But then he comes home and he sits or he loses his presence in a video game. And so there is something, and I'll give you a quick example. This was years ago. One of my boys was in the 6th grade, and Polly knew something was wrong, and I knew something was wrong. But when we would ask, hey, is everything okay? Yes, sir. Hey, has something happened that? No, ma'am. Are you sure you're okay? Yes, ma'am. It'd go, is there anything that has happened recently that's bothering you? No, sir. I mean, this went on for a couple or 3 weeks, and yet we could just sense something was wrong. And so one day I took him for a walk. We were just walking, and we walked up from our house. We went to the left. We usually go to the right. This time we went to the left, and we're walking along, and I asked a couple of questions and asked about some people and just asked about how he kind of felt every day, and then made the comment, well, if you feel that way, why do you seem to feel this way when you're at home? And I forget what even questions I asked, but they were not like cop questions. Okay, if you did this, why did you do this? Okay, why did you? I mean, they were questions like, when you think about a person who acts this way, and then you see that person act a different way in a different situation, what do you think is going on? I'm talking to a 6th grader at this point, but at one point he just burst into tears. And we sat down, there beside the road and, kind of got up off the place we were walking and sat down. And he told me, and I'm reminded about this because you said, Angie, that you don't think that bullying is involved at school. Well, I wouldn't have thought so either, but that's what was happening. I mean, there was a bigger kid, and bullying is probably a little different than when we grew up, but there was a kid who was bigger than he was and who was kind of threatening him, or at least he felt threatened, and he was scared and he was embarrassed and he didn't know what to do. And we solved it really easily. And as you know, Angie, and as Polly and I knew, that, and you would, I say, if you knew the details, it wasn't as big a deal in reality as it was in his mind. Now, with your son, that could be the case, that there's something he has built up, that there's a girl he's liking who doesn't like him, or it could be any number of things that you and I know were a big deal when we were teenagers. But at some point, he has to be able to be given perspective on that, and that is going to require him, in a conversation, even if the conversation is one-sided, but just know that a guy is going to hear and going to take in much easier when he's doing something. And if you really want him to listen, take him for a walk. Okay, because, even though I can have great conversations with Austin when we're playing ping pong, or Adam when he's throwing a cast net or fishing or something like that, if there has to be deep thought, and I know I don't want him to be doing anything. Okay, for a guy, walking is not doing anything. But it's a lot easier than looking across the table at somebody. And so whether you have a friend who talks to him or talks with him, or whether you manage to do that, it needs to be done. And I want to tell you, because your son is older, it could be nothing, but it really could be something. And so you really do need to get at the bottom of it, and only he can tell you what it is. And so just know that you're either going to do this or you're going to do this, or you're going to, these kind of things, while we are desperate sometimes as parents, we have to remember that there are times, you can say, hey, study. Have you studied? Have you studied? Are you studying? What do you have to study for? Are you ready for the test tomorrow? How do you know you're ready? How many times have you studied? How much time have you spent studying? How many hours have you studied? A lot of the things that we say as parents, it's that like what I just said, that's not going to get him to study more. There's no way it's going to get him to really study more. Now, it can make him so aggravated with you that he doesn't want to do anything with you. It can make him mad at you, but it's not going to make him study anymore. So just remember the conversations, what they really think, not what we want them to think or wish they would think or demand they think. What they really think is going to be critical to solving this. Okay? Listen, good luck. I think you will get it done. And let us know. And if we can be of any more help, and I hope we've been of some today, let us know. Okay, thanks. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, yes, I'm harnessing what tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, smile while you talk, shake hands with the kids you meet, and make sure you have an answer to the question, what is the perfect day to start putting up your Christmas decorations? And so, until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme, written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Hot Peppermint Cocoa for the cast and crew, provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional consideration provided by the Fund for Public Television. Be sure to see the upcoming documentary on the underwater basket weavers of New Mexico. This is just one example of the many life-changing topics public television is providing for you. While underwater baskets have quickly become a most coveted gift for holiday occasions, or a traditional gift from those who travel to New Mexico, most people never knew these works of art have been made by hand for almost 1,000 years in the clear waters of the lakes of New Mexico. Public television goes underwater with you to watch the artisans at work. Can you think of anything your teenagers would enjoy more than an evening at home with you, TV dinners, and a 2-hour special on basket weaving? There are no drownings, no close calls, just the sound of deep water accompanied by British narration. Your kids will love it and love you for demanding they watch every minute of it. In fact, when the credits roll, don't be surprised if the whole family wants to dig a lake in the backyard and weave baskets of their own. This Thursday evening, check local listings. Wading with Wicker, the unique story of people who weave baskets underwater.